Acrylic photo frames are amazingly simple to make, and they can be created to accommodate any size photo. We're going to make one today on the Scrapbook Showgram. Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and welcome to the Scrapbook Showgram. Here is a photo frame that I made using surprisingly few supplies. It consists of a piece of plexiglass, that's the front, and then some paper that's used to decorate around the photo itself. And notice up here I've got what was a bamboo skewer that I've trimmed off, and on the bottom the same thing. And what's holding it in place, if I turn it around, you can see that it's just one of those elastic hair bands, and then the support is amazingly simple. This is loose, and you can see that it just is a width that will fit between the hairband and lines up with the top, folds to create a base, and slides into a slit there, and then that actually holds the whole thing up. So this is really, you're going to be surprised at how simple it is and how inexpensive. You want to start with the plexiglass. The stuff that I ended up with this time, because I wanted something really thin, is called, you can see on here, acrylite or acrylite. I'm not even sure how it's pronounced, but it's like a plexiglass. I got the thinnest that they had at the plastic store, and I gave them the dimensions I wanted, which in this case, I wanted a square. So it's a 6-inch square, and then I told them that I wanted the holes, where that I wanted them placed. The placement of the holes is dictated by the elastic band that you're going to use to hold those bamboo skewers. So what you want to do is, I'll set this down so that maybe you can see it if I stretch it out. Here is the first hole, and I want there to be a little bit of stretch for the second hole. Now if I were using regular rubber bands, I wouldn't want that to have that stretch, because it would crumble over, a period of about a year. But these elastic hair bands, gosh, I've done this for a while now, a couple years at least, and I haven't had any that even look like they're starting to get loose. So you want the distance apart to be just a little bit further than the width of your hairband when it's pulled taut. In this case, the distance between these two is 3 inches. So what I did is I came in from the middle section, and if this was the middle point, you go 1.5 inches and mark a hole, and 1.5 inches and mark a hole, and both of these are a 1/2 inch in from the edge, as well as these as well. So once you get the plastic cut, now where to get the plastic? I discovered that several hardware stores and big box improvement stores, they carry plexiglass, and they'll cut it for you for free. However, they don't all drill the holes. Some do and some don't. So if the area that you're in, that turns out to be difficult, I found a chain of stores called Tap Plastics, and we'll put the information on the web, and you can give the information to them over the phone or fax it, and they'll do it and they'll mail it for you. That's actually what I did with these, just because it turned out that my sister lives really close to one of the Tap Plastic stores. So once you get the plastic, and I got lots of these in different sizes, and you have the holes drilled in the position that you want, then you're going to use this as a guide. And in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull off the protection that they have on there. Normally I would do this at the very end so I don't get fingerprints on it, but it's going to be easier for you to see what I'm doing if I actually pull this off. So it's on both the front and the back side of the plastic. It helps them get a nice clean edge when they cut it, and it protects it so that it's really nice and fresh and clear. So you're going to take this now, and you're going to cut, in this case, I have a 6-inch piece of cardstock that's going to be the background, so it's a 6-inch square also. And what you want to do is you want to lay it down, take your pencil, somewhere I have a pencil, and go ahead and trace the holes. I've already done that on this side, so if I lay this down, you can see that I'll, even though there's already a circle there, I'll go ahead and do this. So you see, you're going to trace your circles. It's going to show where those circles or those punches go. And then I took my 1/4" hole punch, and I'll start at the top here. And I'm going to, my pencil line is pretty faint, but I'm going to punch the hole. Once you've punched all 4 holes, it's going to look like this. And so now it's time to actually embellish this background sheet. And the way that I did that is with a lighter red. And the first thing I did was I marked this. I'll pull this up so it's closer to me and I can see it a little better. This is the middle of this 6-inch. This is the 3-inch spot. Since that was where the middle was, that means that my first red strip is going to go right through the middle. And each of these red strips, I think I made them a 1/2 inch long. So using that middle spot, I'm going to lay down the first one, and then I'll take my adhesive, and for the next strip, I'm going to come in from the edge. And actually, I think I'll do, since I'm going to trim them, I'll have them trimmed all in the same, I'll have all my trimming be on one end, which in this case ends up being the bottom. And once they're all placed down and you have the pattern that you like, then you're going to trim off the excess. And this ends up being the background. Any photo that I want to place in here, the tension of that elastic band is going to allow me to take the photo in and out if I want to, and just leave this background as the base. Or you can make several of these backgrounds and change them completely depending on what you want to do. The next step that I did was to create a mat that's going to sit right in the middle of this square. And you can see that I've already started by using my white pen to create just stripes. And you can see how often I do this technique. They're not always just stripes. Sometimes, you know, I create squares, or I might create diamonds, or, you know, all different kinds of patterns. But I go right off the edge, and I want to make sure that I start in far enough that my next layer is going to cover over, and that way I don't have to even worry about how making it any kind of exact amount. And I can see that for some reason I think my pen might be almost out, so I'm going to hope, I don't know if you can see, but my white stripes that I just made are not quite as bright as the ones before. So it was time. I use my white pen so much, it doesn't surprise me. You would normally go back over and make those so that they're the same amount of brightness. When they dry, they do brighten up a little. Once you've got all of those stripes on there, then it's a question of layering the next 2 layers over. So my next layer is this red matte, and I want it to be roughly in the middle. So I just am going to eyeball when it looks like I have a fairly even border on all 4 sides, and that, you know, it's lined up parallel with each of the edges. And then my photo, in this case of Addison when she was really young, I created this frame in this 6-inch square shape because I wanted to use this photo. It was actually on a calendar that my niece made for me, and I just tore off, it was a really big photo, and I made a smaller one. I could fasten this down, but actually, if you want to be able to use this background and slide different photos in and out, you don't have to fasten. So I'll go ahead and I'm just going to position this here so that it's roughly in the middle. Okay, so this is going to just line up with those holes. And if the picture moves around, of course, it's not permanently stuck there. You can, once it's all put together, you can maneuver it around. But now it's time to take the bamboo skewers and cut them. And what I wanted, since my frame is 6 inches, I want these bamboo skewers to be a little bit shorter. So I marked it with a pencil. I marked both of them at 5.5 inches from the end. And I'm going to take my, just my garden snips, and let me see if I can do this so you can, there's the pencil line right there. I'm going to line that up with that mark, and then it shoots. Oh, not too badly. Cuts pretty easily. And then this bamboo skewer happens to be a little thicker. I can just tell by looking at it, but it won't matter. When you get them in the pack, there's all different lengths, but it cuts it nicely. So now it's time to attach these. And to do that, what I'm going to do is take and I'll lift these layers up. I will go ahead and take the hairband and I poke it through, take my skewer and catch that, and then I'm going to bring this back so that it's in front of the hole that it's going to go through next. And what I'm going to do is bring this hairband up through this hole. I use, my producer Jim had this great idea to turn this paper clip into like a hook, and it really works great. So I'm going to just reach under here, grab, and if I can see I'm making it twisted, I can twist it, turn it until I can see that it's going to be good. And then I'm going to go ahead and poke the clip up through the hole, and let me look at the back to see what I'm doing here, and bring it all the way through. And at this point, if I turn it over, I don't know if you can see that my hairband is twisted, so before I actually hook it down, I am going to twist it. I thought I twisted it once, but obviously not enough. There we go. That's how I want it to be. Now I'm going to pull it up and take the skewer and poke it through the hole. It's a little bit easier if you leave the point on, but it works either way. You can see how I've done that to attach the bottom. When you turn and you do the same thing on the top, you end up with this really cool frame that at any point in time you can reach in here and you can move this. You can pull the whole photo out and substitute a different photo so that you end up creating this. Now when it's time to create this back portion, remember I pulled this out and you could see that this is loose. Well, let me show you how to make this stand part of the frame. I started, my paper just happened to be 11 inches long, and I made it about 2.5 inches wide. It has to be thin enough that it can fit through this, the space between those two holes. Remember the two holes are 3 inches apart, so it has to be a little smaller than that, narrower than that. Remember that my frame is 6 inches long, so the dimension from here to the first fold is 6 inches, and then I have about 1.5 inches that I want to have for that base. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll take a scoring tool and a ruler, and I'll go ahead and I'll mark and I'll score. Be sure if you're scoring that you're doing it on a cutting pad. I keep one right on my desk because you don't want to ruin the wood of the desk, or if you're doing it on the dining room table. But when you've got those score marks, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to fold so this becomes the base. This is going to line up with, this one doesn't have two of these, but you can see this is going to line up so that if you place this in here, it's going to go all the way up to this top, and because it's 6 inches, here's the base. Now when it comes to this part, it's easier to slide this in if you taper it. So I just picked a spot. It can be, I like to leave some thickness here, so I wanted it to be just the same on both sides is what's kind of important. So I used a paper trimmer, but for here I'll go ahead and just cut with scissors. You can make one out of copy paper first as a pattern if you want to. Make sure it works, and then go ahead and cut your cardstock. And at this point, you've got these two folds. In order to know where the slit is, you need to take this, lay it however angled you want it to be. Do you want it angled here? Do you want it to sit straight up? And then lay this down and see, mark where you want this to slide in. In my case, the slit is right about there, and I'll pull this up so it will slide in there. So that I used an X-Acto knife to cut a slit there. This isn't staying, I don't have this top one here, but that will slide in there. And you can put another fold there, or you can just let it catch itself based on how the angle is of those cuts. But when we go back to the one where I have both of the rubber bands are attached in both places, you can see that the slit is right there, and when this lines up with the top, that lines up with the bottom. It holds it up beautifully. It's super simple to do, and it creates just a wonderful frame. These are great gifts if you want to make some for birthdays or for holiday presents. Remember I said how easy it is to make in different sizes. What I wanted to show you is in this case, what I have is the same bamboo skewers, but this time I painted them black, and then I used a contrasting color, in this case an orange or a gold elastic band, and the back is white, so I made the stand out of this white or this cream colored cardstock as well. And even this border around my photo, I'm actually recycling a thank you card that was sent to me in the mail, and I just used that and stuck my photo inside the middle. You know, it totally delights me when I find a clever use for everyday things like elastic hairbands, bamboo skewers, and plexiglass. Remember, I really enjoy hearing your comments. If you haven't subscribed, it would be great if you did that, and be sure to share us with your scrapbooking friends. Bye for now.